Hello and welcome to my level 70 Astrologian controller guide. In this guide we're going to be focusing in on three main areas. First, my HUD layout. Second, my controller layout. And third, any settings or macros that I might be using. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do this thing. So first up, if you need to get into your HUD layout, you press Start, go into System, and then access your HUD layout. Pretty much everything is accessible in this menu. But I'm going to focus in on what I call kind of my kill box, the main area in which my attention is focused. Starting in the upper left, I've got my focus target bar and my enemy list. Over here on the right, I've got duty action, my Arcana gauge, which is really helpful, one of the best improvements and one of the best UIs that I've experienced so far in Stormblood. I've got my progress bar, duty gauge, action help, not really that important. Then I've got my target bar, status effects, hotbar 3, left cross hotbar, right cross hotbar, my general cross hotbar, and my parameter bar, plus an extra hotbar 2 just for some macros and easy access when clicking. Now the reason most of this is set up this way is this is where I'll spend the majority of my time. Now your party list is hugely important. For me, it works just fine over here on the left, kind of out of the way, but always at my peripheral view so I can keep track of my hit points for my party members. But if you easily want to place it here or somewhere where it's just going to be a little bit easier for you to keep track of, feel free to do so. Now if you don't want that for, let's say, your tank or for a DPS, check out the HUD layout system. You can have up to 4 different HUD layouts for the job you play. You can even macro the changing of this so that you can set it to when you equip your gear set. It's very handy, it's very powerful, and it shouldn't be forgotten. Now the HUD layout is just one part of it. Going into character configuration, hotbar settings, this is going to allow you to turn on and off various hotbars with ease. You can even say what kind of hotbar they are. So a common question is, how do I get these skills on this hotbar? And the easy answer is you go into actions and traits, you go into job, and if you have a keyboard and mouse, you can just easily drag and drop that onto the target itself. If you don't have a mouse and keyboard and you're solely using the controller, if you hold down the left button and press down on the right stick, you enter virtual mouse mode. Now this will turn your right stick into a virtual mouse. Holding on the left trigger will act as a left click, and you can easily hold that down and drag that with your mouse itself. Pressing down on the left bumper and then on the right stick will exit that mouse mode and will turn the right stick back to your camera. Now with all that out of the way, let's talk about my skill placement. So starting with the top and starting with my skill cooldown, I have, in this case, the viewer, and what that is just spread. This will tell me when spread is off of cooldown, and it also communicates what card that I'm holding. This was really important in Heaven's Word. Now the Arcana gauge will do this somewhat for you, but I still recommend holding it because it will communicate the cooldown for you. And that's because I also have spread, but it's hidden behind the expanded cross hotbar. Next I have Royal Road, followed by Earthly Star, followed by Celestial Opposition, Draw, Time Dilation, and Sleeve Draw. Finally, I cross roll, swift cast, and finally I have Sinistry. Now over here on the W cross hotbar left side, I have Lucid Dreaming, which is cross roll, Celestial Opposition, Undraw, and Undraw Spread. Then over here on the left side, I've got Gravity, which is macro, and we'll jump into that here in a minute. Redraw, Draw, and Malefic, and this is also a macro. Then I have Combust, Light Speed, Earthly Star, and Minor Arcana, which I call Lady or Lord as a macro. On the right hand side, I've got Aspected Helios, Lagarzi, Aspected Benefic, Insuna, Helios, Essential Dignity, Benefic 2, and Benefic. One of the reasons why I have Benefic and Benefit 2 here in these positions is that all of my healers, their main healing spells, are always in the same position. The Insta-heal as well and AoE heals are very similar placed. It's more about muscle memory for me than anything else in the game, especially if you play more than one of the same type of role. This is hugely important, and Suna is always in the same spot for each and every healer. This makes it less about trying to remember where something is and more about knowing where something is. Now on the right hand side, I've got Collective Unconsciousness, Sleeve Draw, which I love, just gotta use it right now, Sinistry, and that's how I access this option, and then Time Dilation, one of my other favorite skills in the game. Now finally, on my expanded cross hotbar, I have Diurnal Sect, Protect, Nocturnal Sect, Royal Road, Ascend, Sprint, Swiftcast, and that's how I access that here, and the Spear, in this case obviously what I'm currently holding. So this is my spread ability. It's very easy to access the skills that I need and when I need them. Keeping things simple and in the same place across healers makes my job as a healer very easy. It means that all I really need to focus in on is what makes the healer special, or different in this case. Obviously a big mechanic of Astrologian is the cards. Now, whatever you end up drawing, it's going to be different each time, so I highly recommend getting to know your card abilities. Sometimes if you struggle with it, if you're just now getting into the job, leave your mouse cursor, if possible, over your draw slot. This will always bring up the selected card's tooltip, telling you exactly what it's used for. This will help you get into a good cadence of what is needed and when. Learning that the Ur is going to restore MP will come naturally with enough playtime, and thus you won't need to use this trick in the future. But I just want to point it out because it's very handy, especially when learning the role. Now that we've talked about the skills and where they're laid out, let's go ahead and dive into the macros that I've set up for this job. You can access the macro system under Start, System, and then User Macro. I've got several that I've set up for my Astrologian, so let's go ahead and dive into them. This first Malfec is for PvP, so we can go ahead and jump into Earthly Star. And all Earthly Star is the ability to set the star at my target. It's a ground targeted ability, so I don't want to have to worry about that with the controller. So you can see that because I use the macro, it automatically upgrades to Stellar Detonation. If I use it again, it's going to go off without a hitch. And this makes it easy. I would recommend, it's all you have to do is add this symbol, and it's going to automatically place the star wherever and whomever you've targeted. If you don't have anyone targeted at that time, that's okay. It just won't execute the action, so just be aware of that. Okay, so up next we've got Malfec. I'm macro iconing it so that it's going to give it its symbol and cooldown. But what I'm doing here is I'm targeting my target's target. So if I'm targeting my tank, it's automatically going to use this ability on whoever is the main target of my tank. So usually that's going to be the main mob that you want to attack. If it cannot execute this ability, for example, let's say your tank is targeting somebody or you're targeting an enemy, it's going to fail, and it's going to go ahead and use just the target in and of itself. So this uses fail through. So first it's going to try my tank, my target's target, and then otherwise it's just going to use it on my target if possible. Otherwise it won't execute. Same thing for gravity. Nothing special here. This again allows me to keep my focus in on the main tank, but at the same time be able to shift into damage without having to adjust my targets whatsoever. If you don't like using them, that's perfectly fine too. You can easily replace these macros with their base ability, and there's no extra work for you on that. But if you do want to take the time, and hopefully this is a help. There is, and I do want to mention, sometimes a slight DPS loss when it comes to using macros, and you always need to make sure you've got at least a decent ping, something under 200. Otherwise you might experience issues with the macros because the system and your system might not be in sync time-wise. Now, Lady or Lord in this case is Minor Arcana, and I guess I could have put that name there, but what this allows you to use is just Minor Arcana. Whether it's the Lord or the Lady card, again, it's going to try to target your target's target, or it's going to use it on your target. So if you're targeting the tank, it's going to attack whoever he's targeting, but if it's trying to heal, then this will fail because you can't heal an enemy, and thus it will use it on the tank himself. So just be aware of that. Again, completely optional. And lastly, Combust. I have it targeting my target's target, and if not, my target. Now what's important to know, if you look at all of these abilities, especially that upgrade, now Malfec and Combust upgrade to Malfec 3 and Combust 2. Now if you sink down into older content, then these are going to still work just as fine. They're just going to use their lower level counterpart. That's one of the great things about the auto upgrade of these spells that they've implemented with Stormblood. It makes macro writing a lot easier, so you don't have to do a lot of fail throughs on skills, especially if you're synced. But you can just use the skill and you can use it, and basically it's more about who are you targeting. A couple other things I do want to dive into under settings and regarding my hotbar. I've got sharing set to where I am only sharing hotbar 7 and 8. This gives me 1 through 6 to be specifically for the job I'm on. Maybe you don't need that much, and one of the things with Stormblood is I'm finding I also don't need that many hotbars as well. But this is just a carryover from Heavensward, and it hasn't impacted me negatively, but this is just something for you as well. You can see that hotbar 3 is job specific, but then any additional hotbars that I might add are shared across the board. Your cross hotbar is where you're going to find your base and most important settings in and of themselves. I'm in hold mode. Most of these features do require it. I also turn off the hotbar help display, and I'm always going to display the W cross hotbar. There's a lot of settings in here. I'm not going to dive into them all, but I also have it always displaying the double cross hotbar and to return to the cross hotbar after W cross hotbar input. So what does this look like? If I use this ability again, it means that I'm immediately refocused back on my right hand side, so I can go right into that. I use these as various one-off abilities. I'm not holding down and attacking from that, but if you wanted to do something like that, you could easily do it. I also have positioned the W cross hotbar separately from cross hotbar, and this allows me to kind of have that offset look and feel that I currently do have. The big settings I do want to highlight here are enable the expanded controls, and this is how you see I get to 2 left, where I have these skills, and then 2 right, in which this is my 7 bar, which is shared. So sprint, my book, my mounts, targeting options, things like that. This makes it easy and something that is easily used across all jobs. Now my W cross hotbar uses 3 left and 3 right. So to assign to those, clicking too many buttons, this is where those skills are placed. You can't actually directly interact with the kind of the shortcuts they have here. You have to drag and drop onto the hotbar itself, and that was one of the things I did struggle with earlier on in the game when it first came out, especially with this option. You can also enable directional buttons, which is going to give you more slots for your W cross hotbar, but I find that I don't need that many skills on it. But again, if you wanted and needed it, go for it. I also have hotbar customization when weapon is drawn set to hotbar 1. What this does is that when I'm engaged with my weapon drawn and I try to hit the R bumper, it's not going to page, but if I take it off, I can just hit R bumper to easily cycle through those options. So you can go in here easily and set any of those things that you want to be cycled, easily even with weapon is sheath. So I can say, well, I want 1 and I want 7 and 8, and that's all I'm going to use. So hitting save and close, now these are the options that I have, so it doesn't have to keep filtering through all of it. Anyway, I hope some of this has been helpful for you. I really am enjoying the Astrologian job. Be sure to keep it locked here. We're going to be doing a deep dive 101 healing guide on Astrologian, PvP guide, and my overall thoughts on the job here in the coming days. So please keep it locked and let us know if you have any questions, or concerns about the macros themselves, about how I have my layout. These are just, ideally suggestions to give you some idea of how you can set up your UI, but hopefully you're going to be able to take this and you can really make it your own. Hopefully this helps you, manage your skills and cooldowns easier. But at the end of the day, I want to empower you to make it your own. The best thing that you can do is have that muscle memory to know when and where to use abilities, because that's going to make you an effective and competent healer. Healing in this game is not an easy thing, but it can also be very fun and satisfying as well. But anyway, for Work to Game, my name's Brian. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I do hope to see you in my next. But until then, we hope you have a fantastic week, and take care. Hey everybody, Brian and Chuck here for Work to Game. Chuck wants to tell you that you should totally subscribe to the channel, and that you should totally hit that like button. Oh, and then we also got t-shirts on sale for some reason. That's a little bit mean, Chuck. I'm not crazy.